Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the blue and green planet through the large viewing screen. The planet looked peaceful and quiet, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. His ship was one of 12 in the Vorthan fleet, each one bigger than a small city and armed with weapons that could destroy entire continents. "Sir, we have completed our scans of the third planet," said Officer Kane, looking up from his control panel. "The inhabitants call their world Earth. They appear to be a primitive species." Thane walked closer to the screen, studying the planet with interest. This was supposed to be an easy conquest. The Vorthan Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 200 years, taking control of star system after star system. They always followed the same pattern: scout the target world, evaluate its defenses, then send an appropriate force to conquer it. "What do our sensors tell us about their military capabilities?" Thane asked. Kane pressed several buttons on his console, bringing up detailed reports. "Very limited, sir. They have basic chemical rockets that can barely leave their atmosphere. Their weapons are mostly metal projectiles fired by controlled explosions. We detected no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and no orbital defense platforms." "What about their unity? Are they organized as a single government?" "No, sir. The planet is divided into hundreds of separate nations. Our intelligence shows they spend most of their time fighting each other instead of preparing for external threats. They have been at war with themselves for thousands of years." Thane smiled. This was exactly what he had expected to hear. The Vorthans had encountered dozens of primitive worlds like this one. Species that were too busy fighting among themselves to develop proper defenses against a real threat. The humans would be conquered within days, maybe hours. "Sir, should we begin the standard intimidation protocol?" asked Kane. "Yes, send 3 ships to their major population centers. Fire warning shots to show them our power. When they see what we can do, they will surrender immediately. Most primitive species do." The Vorthan ships moved through space with deadly grace. Each vessel was over 3 kilometers long and armed with plasma cannons that could melt mountains. Their hulls were protected by energy shields that could deflect most known weapons. To the Vorthans, this was routine. They had used the same tactics on 17 different worlds, and every single one had surrendered after the first demonstration of power dot as the ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Thane watched the human reaction through his sensors. Primitive aircraft scrambled from military bases around the world. News broadcasts showed crowds of humans running through streets in panic. Their governments called emergency meetings. Everything was proceeding exactly as expected. "Target the empty areas near their major cities," Thane ordered. "Destroy some of their unimportant buildings. Make sure they understand what we can do to them." The first Vorthan ship positioned itself over a human city called New York. The pilot carefully aimed at an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. A beam of pure energy shot down from the ship, instantly turning the building into glowing vapor. The explosion could be seen for hundreds of kilometers. The second ship took position over London and fired at an empty parking structure. The building disappeared in a flash of light, leaving only a crater filled with molten glass. The third ship destroyed an unused warehouse near Tokyo, creating a pillar of fire that rose high into the sky. Thane watched the human news broadcasts with satisfaction. The reporters looked terrified as they described the alien attacks. Government officials made urgent statements calling for calm. Military leaders held emergency conferences. The humans were responding exactly as every other primitive species had responded. "Sir, we are receiving multiple communication attempts from the planet's surface," reported the communications officer back. "They are using basic radio signals to try to contact us." "Let them wait," Thane said. "Fear will make them more willing to accept our terms. How long before they surrender?" Kane checked his instruments. "Based on our previous conquests, sir, I estimate between 2 and 6 hours." Most species cannot handle the psychological pressure for longer than that. But something strange was happening on Earth. Instead of immediately offering surrender, the humans were doing something unexpected. They were fighting back. The first sign came from one of their military bases. A projectile weapon, primitive but surprisingly accurate, fired at the Vorthan ship over New York. The metal shell bounced harmlessly off the energy shields, but it was the first time any primitive species had dared to attack a Vorthan vessel during the intimidation phase. "Sir, the humans are firing at our ships," Beck reported with surprise in his voice. "Impossible," Thane said. "They must realize how outmatched they are. Their primitive weapons cannot even scratch our shields." More attacks came from around the planet. Human aircraft launched rockets that exploded uselessly against Vorthan hulls. Ground-based weapons fired shells that could not penetrate the alien defenses. To the Vorthans, it seemed like insects trying to attack giants. "Should we destroy their military installations, sir?" Thane asked. "Not yet. They are probably just showing defiance before they surrender. Many species do this. They want their people to see that they tried to fight before accepting defeat." Hours passed, but the surrender message never came. Instead, the human attacks continued and even intensified. More aircraft joined the fight. Naval vessels fired missiles from the oceans. Ground forces positioned their largest weapons to target the alien ships. Thane began to feel confused. This was not following the normal pattern. Most primitive species gave up after seeing their weapons were useless. The humans seemed to be getting more determined, not less. "Sir, I am detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface," said the sensor operator, Vale. "There are power sources coming online that we did not detect during our initial scans." "What kind of power sources?" "I am not certain, sir. They are very well hidden. Some appear to be underground. Others are under the oceans. The energy levels are much higher than anything we observed before." Thane frowned. This was unusual, but not necessarily threatening. Many primitive species had backup power systems for emergencies. The humans were probably just activating their reserve generators to power their communications and military equipment. "Continue monitoring, but do not be concerned. Their technology is still thousands of years behind ours." On the planet below, something was indeed happening. In hidden facilities around the world, systems that had been sleeping for decades were coming to life. Deep underground bunkers were opening. Weapons that had never been tested in real combat were being prepared for use. The humans were not surrendering because they had not yet shown their real strength. The Vorthan fleet waited in Earth's orbit, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had conquered 17 worlds using the same methods. The humans would surrender soon, just like all the others. Commander Thane had no idea that he was about to discover why the humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. He was about to learn that a species which had survived that long in constant warfare might have developed skills that peaceful civilizations could never imagine. The Vorthans thought they were attacking a defenseless world. They were wrong. General Marcus Webb stood in the underground command center, watching dozens of screens that showed alien ships hovering over major cities around the world. Unlike the panicked crowds on the streets above, his face was calm and focused. He had been preparing for this day for 20 years. "Sir, the aliens have fired warning shots in 12 different locations," reported Colonel Lisa Park, looking up from her computer terminal. "The damage is minimal so far, but they are clearly trying to scare us into surrendering." Webb nodded slowly and walked to the main control panel. His fingers moved across a series of switches that had never been used before. Each switch activated systems that officially did not exist. "How long since we started the Sleeping Giant Protocol?" 53 minutes, sir. All hidden facilities are coming online according to schedule. The aliens had made a serious mistake in how they studied Earth. They had watched humanity during peaceful times, seeing only normal cities, regular armies, and everyday technology. They had no idea that Earth's most powerful weapons were hidden away, waiting for exactly this kind of threat, deep under mountains, beneath ocean floors, and in places that did not appear on any public map. Humanity's real military power was waking up. Projects that had been secret for decades were suddenly becoming active. Weapons that had been too dangerous to test were now humanity's only hope for survival. Commander Thane stood on his ship's bridge, growing more confused by the minute. His sensor operator had been reporting strange readings from the planet's surface. For the past hour. "Sir, the energy signatures are getting stronger," said Vale, staring at his instruments with worry. "These readings do not match anything we know about primitive civilizations. Some of these power sources are producing more energy than our own ship reactors." "That is impossible," Thane replied, but his voice showed doubt. "Run the scans again. There must be an error." Vale worked frantically at his controls, checking and double-checking the readings. "Sir, the scans are correct. Multiple facilities across the planet are powering up systems that we never detected before. The energy output is extraordinary." Before Thane could respond, something happened that changed everything. A beam of invisible energy shot up from somewhere in the mountains of North America. It moved faster than light and struck one of the Vorthan cruisers directly in the center. The massive alien ship, over 2 kilometers long and protected by the strongest shields in the Vorthan fleet, simply vanished. Not destroyed in an explosion. Not damaged and left floating dead in space. It was completely disintegrated, turned into atoms in less than a second. "What just happened?" Thane shouted, staring at the empty space where his ship had been. "Sir, the cruiser Thunder of Victory has been completely destroyed," Kane reported, his voice shaking. "I cannot detect any debris. It appears to have been molecularly dissolved. By what weapon? What kind of primitive species has technology that can do that?" The answer came quickly. "Another beam fired from a different location on Earth, this time from somewhere in the Sahara Desert." A second Vorthan ship disappeared just as completely as the first. Then a third beam fired from the ocean near Japan, destroying another cruiser in the hidden facility beneath Mount Cheyenne. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched her quantum dissolution beam recharge for another shot. She had been working on the project for 15 years, never believing she would actually use it in combat. The weapon worked by breaking the atomic bonds that held matter together, essentially unmaking anything it touched. "Target acquired," she said into her headset. "Firing quantum." Beam number 4. Another Vorthan ship ceased to exist. On the other side of the world, Colonel Dmitry Petrov activated a different kind of weapon from his base in Siberia. His gravity distortion cannon did not destroy ships by dissolving them. Instead, it created a small area where gravity was multiplied by 1,000 times. The alien vessel was crushed into a ball of metal the size of a basketball in 2 seconds. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka surfaced his submarine in the Pacific Ocean and prepared to fire weapons that had been hidden underwater for 10 years. His ship was invisible to all known sensors, protected by technology that bent light and energy around it. The aliens could not see him, but he could see them perfectly. "Plasma torpedo ready," his weapons officer reported. Fire, the torpedo used, contained fusion reactions to create a miniature star that burned for exactly 3 seconds. It was enough to melt through any known material. Commander Thane watched his fleet being destroyed ship by ship, unable to understand what was happening. In 30 minutes, he had lost 7 vessels to weapons that should not exist. The humans were using technology that was more advanced than anything in the Vorthan database. "Sir, incoming message from the planet's surface," Beck reported. "Put it on the main screen." The face that appeared belonged to a human male wearing a military uniform. His expression was serious but not afraid. "This is General Webb of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. "I am offering you one chance to withdraw from our system immediately." Thane found his voice. "Impossible. Your species is primitive. You have no advanced technology. Our intelligence reports show that you barely have spaceflight capability." Webb smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. "Your intelligence was gathered during peacetime. You made the mistake of thinking that what you could see was all we had. We have conquered 17 worlds. No primitive species has ever resisted. U.S. successfully." "Then you have never encountered a species like humanity," Webb replied. "You see, we have been at war with each other for our entire history. Every weapon you have seen today was designed to fight other humans who knew exactly what we were capable of. We have been preparing for bigger wars for centuries." Another Vorthan ship exploded as Webb was speaking, destroyed by a weapon that fired compressed black holes. "Your mistake was assuming we were defenseless because we looked primitive," Webb continued. "The truth is, we have been hiding our real capabilities because we were afraid of what would happen if we used them against each other. You have given us an enemy we can fight without holding back." Thane realized with growing horror that his mighty fleet was facing an opponent unlike any they had ever encountered. The humans had not developed their technology through conquest and expansion like the Vorthans. They had developed it through constant warfare against enemies who were just as smart and just as dangerous as they were. "This is not possible," Thane whispered. "Sir, we have lost 9 ships," Kane reported. "The humans are using weapons that violate known laws of physics. We must retreat immediately." But it was too late. More beams of energy were rising from Earth, each one destroying another Vorthan vessel. The fleet that had come to conquer a primitive world was being systematically eliminated by technology they could not understand or defend against. The humans had been waiting for this moment for generations, and they were ready. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the control room of the Prometheus facility, buried 3 kilometers beneath the Sahara Desert. The room was filled with the hum of machinery that had been waiting in silence for decades. Banks of computers lined the walls, monitoring weapons systems that most governments did not even know existed. "Quantum beam recharged and ready," announced her assistant, Dr. Tom Miller. "Target the large ship on the left side of their formation." Elena pressed the firing button, and another Vorthan cruiser disappeared from existence. She had spent her entire career developing weapons that could unmake matter itself, but she had never imagined using them in actual combat. The quantum dissolution beam was her life's work, and it was performing perfectly. "How many ships have we destroyed so far?" she asked. 12 out of their original fleet of 24, Miller replied, checking his monitors. "The other facilities are reporting similar success rates." Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out in dozens of hidden locations. In the frozen wasteland of Antarctica, Professor Kate Wilson activated the ice station's neutron lance. The weapon fired a beam of pure neutrons that passed through normal matter like it was not there, but when it hit the alien ship's reactor core, it caused a chain reaction that turned the entire vessel into a ball of plasma. "Direct hit on target. 7, she reported into her radio. "Enemy ship completely vaporized." From a facility hidden inside Mount Fuji, Dr. Akira Yamamoto launched his spacefold missiles. These weapons did not travel through normal space. Instead, they folded the fabric of reality itself, appearing instantly inside enemy ships and detonating with the force of a small nuclear bomb. The alien shields were useless because the missiles never passed through them. Commander Thane watched, his fleet dying around him, and struggled to understand what was happening. His species had traveled the galaxy for centuries, encountering hundreds of different civilizations. None of them had possessed technology like this. "Sir, we have lost 15 ships in the past hour," Kane reported, his voice filled with fear. Their weapons are unlike anything in our database. Some appear to manipulate space and time itself. How is this possible? Thane demanded. Our scouts reported a primitive species with basic chemical rockets. Where did they get technology that surpasses our own? Vale looked up from his sensor station, his face pale. Sir, I am detecting massive underground complexes across the entire planet. They have been hidden by some kind of stealth technology that makes them invisible to our scans. The humans have been building secret facilities for decades, maybe centuries. On the surface of Earth, the truth was becoming clear. Humanity had not been idle during their centuries of warfare. Every conflict, every arms race, every technological breakthrough had been building toward this moment. The weapons that were now destroying the Vorthan fleet had been developed during the Cold War, refined during regional conflicts, and perfected. In secret laboratories around the world, General Webb stood in his command bunker, coordinating the defense from dozens of hidden sites. Each facility had been built to survive nuclear war, alien invasion, or complete societal collapse. They were scattered across every continent and connected by communication systems that could function even if the surface of the planet was destroyed. Report from all stations, he ordered. Arctic Base reports successful elimination of 3 enemy vessels using Aurora cannon, came the first reply. Deep Sea Station has destroyed 2 ships with pressure wave weapons. Mountain Fortress confirms 4 kills using gravity hammer technology. Space Mirror Array has completed orbital laser strikes on 5 targets. Webb nodded with satisfaction. The Sleeping Giant Protocol was working exactly as designed. For 50 years, humanity had been secretly preparing for the possibility of alien invasion. Every major power had contributed resources, technology, and personnel to the project. The weapons being used today represented the combined scientific achievement of the entire human race. Dr. James Mitchell emerged from his laboratory in the Australian outback, where he had been working on temporal displacement weapons. His device could slow down time in a small area, making enemy ships move so slowly that they became sitting targets for conventional weapons. Time distortion field activated, he announced. Enemy vessels in Sector 12 are now moving at 1% normal speed. The affected Vorthan ships found themselves trapped in slow motion, unable to maneuver or return fire as human aircraft swarmed around them like angry wasps. What should have been a brief dogfight lasted for hours from the aliens' perspective, giving the humans time to target their weapons with perfect precision. In the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, Captain Susan Blake commanded a submarine that had been built using technology reverse-engineered from crashed meteorites. Her vessel could dive deeper than any natural trench and move faster than most surface ships. The aliens had no idea that humans had been secretly exploring space for decades, recovering alien artifacts and learning from them. Quantum torpedo tubes loaded, her weapons officer reported. Ready to fire. Fire all tubes. The torpedoes used quantum entanglement to lock onto their targets, making them impossible to dodge or deflect. Each one carried a warhead that could punch through the strongest known materials. Commander Thane realized that his flagship was now the primary target. Every few minutes, another devastating weapon fired at his remaining ships. The humans seemed to have an endless supply of impossible technologies. Weapons that bent physics, devices that manipulated fundamental forces, and systems that used principles the Vorthans had never discovered. Sir, we must retreat immediately, Kane urged. We have lost 18 ships. Our remaining forces cannot withstand this assault. No, Thane said firmly. We cannot retreat. If we return to the Empire and report that we were defeated by a primitive species, we will be executed for cowardice. There must be an explanation for this. But deep in his heart, Thane was beginning to understand the truth. The humans were not primitive. They had been hiding their true capabilities, waiting for someone to threaten them seriously enough to justify revealing their secret weapons. The Vorthan Empire had been expanding across the galaxy, conquering peaceful civilizations that had never faced real danger. Earth was different. The humans had been forged in constant warfare, fighting each other with ever-increasing brutality and sophistication. Every weapon they possessed had been tested in real combat against enemies who understood their tactics and capabilities. They had been preparing for interstellar war for generations, even before they knew that other species existed. From his position in the Himalayan defense complex, Colonel Raj Patel activated the mountain's kinetic barrier system. The weapon created a field of accelerated particles that could deflect or destroy anything that came near it. Enemy plasma bolts bounced harmlessly off the barrier, while human weapons passed through without interference. The battle continued, and the Vorthan fleet continued to shrink. Each destroyed ship carried with it the knowledge and experience of centuries of conquest. The Empire's most advanced vessels, their most skilled crews, and their most powerful weapons were being systematically eliminated by a species they had underestimated. Admiral Sarah Hayes stood on the bridge of the UNS Vengeance, humanity's first and only interstellar warship. The massive vessel had been built in complete secrecy over the past 15 years, hidden in a construction facility on the dark side of the moon. Its existence was known only to a handful of world leaders and the thousands of engineers who had worked on it. "Bring us to attack position," she ordered her crew. "Target their command vessel." The Vengeance moved through space with deadly grace. Its hull was black as midnight, designed to absorb all forms of radiation and remain invisible to enemy sensors. The ship was armed with weapons that had never been tested in combat, technologies so advanced that they had been considered theoretical until today. "Admiral, we are in position," reported Captain Mike Johnson, her second in command. "The Singularity cannon is fully charged and ready to fire." Hayes studied the alien flagship through her tactical display. It was the largest ship in the enemy fleet, bristling with weapons and protected by energy shields that could deflect most known attacks. But the Vengeance was not carrying conventional weapons. "Fire," she commanded. The Singularity cannon created a microscopic black hole that lasted for exactly 3 seconds. It was small enough to avoid damaging Earth's gravitational field, but large enough to tear through any material in existence. The artificial black hole appeared directly inside the alien ship's hull. Bypassing all shields and armor. Commander Thane felt his flagship shudder as reality itself was wounded around him. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the vessel as massive hull breaches opened in impossible patterns. The ship's artificial gravity failed, sending crew members floating helplessly through corridors filled with debris. "What hit us?" he shouted, grabbing onto a support beam to keep from floating away. "Unknown weapon, sir," Kane replied, struggling with his damaged control panel. "It appears to have created some kind of spatial distortion inside our hull. The damage is unlike anything I have ever seen." The Vengeance moved closer, its weapons systems tracking the dying flagship. Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel to the alien commander, wanting him to understand what was happening to his fleet. "This is Admiral Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force," she said, her voice calm and professional. "You made a critical error in your intelligence gathering." Thane managed to activate his ship's communication system despite the damage. The human female who appeared on his screen looked completely in control, showing no fear or uncertainty. "What error?" he demanded, blood flowing from a cut on his forehead. "You assumed we were defenseless because you observed us during peacetime," Hayes replied. "You did not realize that humans do not truly have peacetime. We have temporary breaks between conflicts while we prepare for the next war." Around the dying Vorthan flagship, the battle continued with increasing intensity. Human fighter craft that should not exist swarmed around the remaining alien ships. These fighters moved in ways that defied physics, making turns that should have killed their pilots and accelerating at speeds that should have been impossible. Lieutenant Jack Turner piloted his experimental fighter through a formation of enemy vessels, his craft protected by an inertial dampening field that allowed him to survive maneuvers that would turn a normal human into paste. His weapons fired streams of antimatter that annihilated anything they touched. "This is Wolf Squadron," he reported over the radio. "We have enemy fighters trying to intercept. They are not fast enough." The Vorthan pilots had been trained to fight against conventional spacecraft. They had no experience dealing with human fighters that could change direction instantly, accelerate beyond the speed of light for brief periods, and fire weapons that converted matter directly into energy. From the lunar surface, humanity's most secret weapon began to charge. The mass driver had been built inside a crater on the moon's far side, hidden from Earth-based telescopes and alien scouts. It was designed to accelerate projectiles to a significant percentage of light speed using magnetic fields powered by fusion reactors. "Lunar Command to all stations," came the voice of General Robert Chun. "Mass driver is fully charged, preparing to fire kinetic penetrator rounds." The weapon launched solid tungsten rods the size of telephone poles at incredible velocity. When they struck the alien ships, the kinetic energy was so enormous that the targets simply ceased to exist, converted to plasma by the impact. Commander Thane watched 3 more of his ships disappear under the lunar bombardment. His once mighty fleet now consisted of only 4 vessels, all damaged and running low on power. The humans had revealed weapon after weapon, each one more impossible than the last. "Sir, we must surrender," Kane pleaded. "We cannot fight technology like this. They are using principles of physics that we do not understand, but surrender was not an option. Even if the humans accepted it, returning to the Vorthan Empire with news of such a devastating defeat would mean execution for cowardice. Thane had to find a way to win, or at least to understand how the humans had developed such advanced technology. Dr. Lisa Park worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the Nevada desert, preparing humanity's final surprise. The dimensional rift generator had been her secret project for 20 years, a weapon that could open holes in space itself. She had never dared to test it at full power, but today there were no restrictions. "Rift generator online," she announced. "Opening portal in 3, 2, 1. A hole in reality appeared directly in front of the largest remaining alien ship. On the other side of the portal was the heart of a star, containing temperatures of millions of degrees and radiation levels that could sterilize planets. The alien vessel was instantly consumed by stellar fire, vaporized before its crew even realized what was happening. The remaining Vorthan ships tried to retreat, but human vessels surrounded them on all sides. The Un's vengeance moved to block their escape route, while smaller ships harassed them with weapons that seemed to violate the laws of nature. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka surfaced his stealth submarine again, this time revealing its true nature. The vessel was not just invisible to sensors, it existed partially outside normal spacetime. When it fired its quantum cascade torpedoes, the weapons phased through the alien hulls and exploded inside their reactors. "This is impossible," Thane whispered, watching his last escort ship die in a cascade of quantum fire. "How can a primitive species possess technology that exceeds our own by centuries?" Admiral Hayes heard his transmission and decided to answer his question. "You call us primitive because you saw our civilian technology and our peacetime military. You never saw what we built in secret, what we developed during our darkest conflicts." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Every weapon you have faced today was designed by humans to fight other humans. We have been at war with ourselves for thousands of years, and every conflict taught us new ways to kill our enemies. When you appeared in our sky, you gave us a common target for all that accumulated knowledge." Thane realized with growing horror that he had led his fleet into a trap. Not a deliberate trap, but something worse. The humans had been unconsciously preparing for this battle for their entire history, developing weapons and tactics through constant warfare against opponents who knew their capabilities and could adapt to counter them. The Vorthan Empire conquered peaceful worlds that had never faced serious military threats. Earth was different. Earth was a world where warfare was an art form, where military technology advanced through brutal competition, and where every victory came at the cost of learning new ways to kill. Commander Thane floated in the wreckage of his command bridge, watching Earth grow larger through a hole in his ship's hull. His flagship was dying, its systems failing one by one as it fell toward the planet's surface. Around him, the remnants of his crew struggled to survive in the chaos of their destroyed vessel. Only one other Vorthan ship remained intact, and it was already trying to flee the system. Captain Vex had taken command of the escort cruiser Lightning Strike and was attempting to reach the edge of the solar system where he could engage faster than light travel. But the humans were not going to let them escape so easily. Admiral Hayes watched the fleeing alien ship on her tactical display. The Vengeance had weapons that could destroy it instantly, but she had a different plan. She wanted at least one Vorthan to survive, to carry the message back to their empire. "Communications, open a channel to the escaping vessel," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." "Unknown alien ship, this is Admiral Hayes. You are free to leave our system, but you will carry a message to your people." Captain Vex appeared on the screen, his reptilian features showing fear and confusion. "What message?" "Tell your empire that Earth is not a primitive world. Tell them that humans are not defenseless prey. If any more alien forces come to our system with hostile intentions, they will face the same fate as your fleet." Vex nodded quickly. "I understand. We will not return." "Make sure you do not," Hayes replied. Then cut the transmission. The Lightning Strike accelerated away from Earth at maximum speed, carrying its terrified crew toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, the last pieces of the Vorthan invasion fleet burned in Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. 3 days later, Dr. Michael Chun stood in the United Nations headquarters in New York, addressing an emergency session of world leaders. The linguist had been working without sleep since the battle ended, studying the alien communication systems and computer data recovered from the wreckage. "The Vorthans were not operating alone," he reported to the assembled delegates. "According to their records, they are part of something called the Hegemony, a military alliance that controls hundreds of star systems across this region of the galaxy." President Jackson of the United States leaned forward in his chair. "How many species are we talking about?" "At least 60 different civilizations," Chun replied, his voice grim. "The hegemony has been expanding for over 1,000 years, conquering any world that cannot defend itself. They operate on a simple principle: send scouts to evaluate a target, then dispatch an appropriate force to conquer it." Secretary General Maria Santos raised her hand. "What happens when the scouts do not return?" "That is the problem," Chun said. "According to their protocols, when a scouting force fails to report back, the hegemony assumes the worst. They will send a full battle fleet to investigate and destroy whatever eliminated their scouts." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Earth had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. The aliens would return in greater numbers, bringing the combined military might of dozens of civilizations. General Webb stood up slowly. "How long do we have?" "The Vorthans were supposed to send a status report in 6 months," Chun replied. "When they fail to do so, the hegemony will dispatch a full invasion force. We are looking at thousands of ships, advanced technology from multiple species, and military tactics developed over centuries of conquest." Admiral Hayes spoke from her position at the conference table. "Then we need to be ready for them. The weapons we used against the Vorthans were just the beginning. We have been holding back our most advanced systems, afraid to reveal them even to ourselves." President Jackson nodded grimly. "What are you suggesting?" Full mobilization, Hayes replied. Every secret project, every experimental weapon, every theoretical technology that we have been afraid to build. We have 6 months to prepare for a war that will determine the survival of our species. In the months that followed, Earth transformed itself into a fortress. The Sleeping Giant Protocol was expanded to include every nation on the planet. Secret facilities that had been hidden for decades were revealed and expanded. Scientists who had been working on theoretical projects suddenly found themselves with unlimited funding and resources. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved her quantum dissolution research to a massive new facility in the Amazon rainforest. Her team grew from 12 people to over 3,000, all working to build weapons that could unmake matter itself on a galactic scale. Professor Kate Wilson relocated her Neutron Lance project to Antarctica, where she began construction of weapons that could fire through the Earth itself to strike targets on the opposite side of the planet. The frozen continent became a hidden fortress bristling with weapons that could crack moons in half. Colonel Dmitry Petrov expanded his gravity manipulation research, building weapons that could create artificial black holes, reverse gravity fields, and compress spacetime itself. His facilities in Siberia became the testing ground for technologies that bent the laws of physics. The ocean floors were transformed into massive shipyards, where humanity built its first true space fleet. Vessels like the Vengeance were no longer unique prototypes, but the first of hundreds of ships, designed specifically for interstellar warfare. Captain Vex arrived at the hegemony capital world of Nexus Prime after a journey that took 4 months. His ship was the sole survivor of what should have been an easy conquest, and his report would shock the military leadership of 60 civilizations. The humans were not primitive, he reported to the Council of Species. They possessed technology that exceeded our own in every category. Weapons that manipulated space and time, devices that could create and control black holes, ships that were invisible to all known sensors. High Commander Zal, leader of the hegemony military forces, studied the recorded data from the battle. The images showed Vorthan ships simply vanishing under human attacks, weapons that defied known physics, and tactical coordination that suggested a highly advanced military mind. How is this possible? Zal demanded. Our intelligence clearly showed a primitive world with basic technology. They were hiding their true capabilities, Vex replied. According to their own transmissions, they have been preparing for interstellar war for generations. Every weapon they used was designed through centuries of conflict against their own species. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members argued for immediate retaliation with the full might of the hegemony fleet. Others suggested caution, pointing out that humanity had already proven capable of destroying superior forces. High Commander Zal raised his hand for silence. The decision is made. We will dispatch the Grand Fleet to the human system. 2,000 ships from 30 different worlds, carrying the most advanced weapons in known space. These humans may have surprised the Vorthans, but they cannot stand against the combined might of the hegemony. But even as he spoke those words, Zal felt a nagging doubt. The humans had been hiding their true nature from galactic observation for who knew how long. If they could conceal weapons capable of destroying Vorthan ships so easily, what else might they be hiding? On Earth, the preparations continued. Humanity had 6 months to ready itself for the greatest battle in its history. The species that had spent millennia fighting itself was finally united against a common enemy, and they were determined to show the galaxy what humans could accomplish when they stopped holding back.